was all Clippers, plus 15 in threes, plus 12 in the paint. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard did their thing. Lakers a little sloppy as expected, 19 turnovers.
A little rusty, 19 turnovers. Quick turnaround after 71 days of being out of the playoffs. You know, it's a new season. You know, and the Clippers have a new attitude. The Lakers obviously are trying to blend those players together, the 4 new starters, and they were a little rusty. You expected the Clippers to come out. You know, Paul George is going to be a problem, along with Kawhi Leonard. The Lakers know what they have to do. They'll look at some video and, you know, try to come back the next game. But it's only one game. But the Clippers, they have a new attitude, and they have a lot more to prove tonight. So hats off to the Clippers. They played a great game, and, you know, the Lakers have to pick up and go from here.
Yeah, one game. I like that perspective, that reminder we got from Kevin Harlan during the broadcast tonight. You know, after losing to the Clippers a season ago, as you mentioned, dropping that opening night, the Lakers went on to win 24. They went 24-3 in their first 27 games. And I think it was a lot of what we expected coming into tonight, all the circumstances. It's the reality. It is not an excuse. The Clippers showed up and did what they were supposed to do. I think that's an element we can't forget, was that there's a lot of motivation on their side as well, given how things went for them last season, a season ago. And they came out and they did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, you look at the big 4 in this game, the 2 superstars for both teams, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, combining for 59 points. Paul George, 13 of 18. LeBron James with 22, 7 of 17. Slow start, but got it going. AD, 18 points, 8 of 15, and 7 rebounds. End of the third quarter kind of sticks out to me, guys. Lakers, up to that point with about 2 minutes and 27 seconds left, they were right there. Many chances to take the lead, could never do it. Luke Kennard hits a shot, and then Paul George goes on a 10-0 run. Just like that, Allie, the quarter ends, and the Clippers are up 11 points.
Look, I think Frank told us yesterday what we all need to keep in mind. There are going to be some ugly moments. There are going to be some ugly nights. And I think the moments tonight that stood out, particularly to end that third quarter, also to end the first quarter, stretches and runs in which they could have taken advantage, and instead it went against their favor. I think when you look at a guy like Paul George, we have to remember, you said that he's going to be a problem. The narrative about Paul George has never been about who he is in the regular season. It's always about what happens when it matters most in the postseason. Yeah. That's where he has struggled. And so to see what he was able to do, you point to those 10 straight points. He is a superstar in this league. He is one of the best two-way players in this league. His ability to score in the ways in which he can score. We saw it tonight in the home opener for him, or the opening night game for him. He did what he was supposed to do. Reminded us who he was.
Before we get to the ring ceremony, because we do want to talk about some positives that came out of tonight, the Lakers getting their championship rings, I want to talk Lakers defense. And I don't want to talk a lot about last year, but it is so fresh because it just happened literally like 6 weeks ago. We said in the pregame show, this is a different team, different style, some new personnel. You lost some defensive-minded guys. I think, James, we were used to that Laker team really being able to lock in. We only saw glimpses of it tonight, maybe in the second and third quarter. But first quarter, fourth quarter, Lakers kind of struggled defensively, and I think that's where they're going to have to improve the most and tighten it up. I
think they'll get in sync. You know, they lost a couple of players to Dwight Howard, McGee, you know, shot blockers.
Avery Bradley.
Avery Bradley was a perimeter assassin. So, yeah, those are the things that, you know, even though they are multi-talented and they brought in 4 new fresh players, those are the type of things that you're going to have to, you know, work on as a team, because when you lose, you know, players, you bring in other players, you know, offensively is easy. Defensively, the communication, I think that's where Marc Gasol will come in. Schroeder's a pretty good defensive player. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but they're going to have to figure out how to get in sync defensively. Also, when you have Paul George as hot as he was, there's really no defense for that. But the Lakers, you know, they have some improvement. They know they're going to have to work on some things, and so that's going to be their challenge on the defensive end.
You know, they often say, though, that it's not, when it comes to the defensive end of the floor, it's not about the size per se, though that was a luxury for the Lakers last season and they made that work. It's all about what's inside. And I actually think that the Lakers have a lot of dogs. They have a lot of defensive-minded guys. But to your point, it's going to take some time to put it all together on that end of the floor, the communication, having your legs, having your wind, and having that be a strong backbone. Because I would actually argue that of the positive things tonight that you were able to take away, it's that when the Lakers dive into themselves and really dig deep, they're going to be a strong defensive team. That will be their identity yet again this season.
All right, guys, after the shortest offseason in NBA history, literally, the Lakers received their 2019-2020 championship rings.
The Lakers have the best odds of hoisting the Larry O'Brien, followed in a tie by the KD-Kyrie combo and BK and the $228 million man Giannis and the Bucks and Kawhi's Clippers to round out the top four. I hear Kendrick Perkins has joined the debate. Is that true? Oh, it is.
What's
Here we go.
Let
the party begin. How we
here.
doing? How are things in H-Town? It's good to see you. All right, let's get it.
Look at him smiling year to year. Molly, look at Perk smiling year to year. We're gonna fix that before the end of this segment.
Oh man!
Right? Oh my gosh! All right, Max, let's do this. I'm super excited, guys. NBA season tips off tonight. I know the show just started. I've already said it 80,000 times, but I have nothing else to do with my life, so I'm really looking forward to watching a lot of NBA games. Max, who's gonna win it all? The defending champion Lakers or the Field?
The Lakers are going to win the whole thing, and I'll pick them against the Field without hesitation. The only thing that could stop them is a catastrophic injury, knock wood. Basketball is not like football or baseball. Basketball is determinative, and when you get, like, the best team almost always wins because you can run your plays through your best players. It's not like baseball. You got to wait for the guy to come up in the lineup. Or football, one whistle can vastly change the fortunes of a team. You know, there are so many plays in basketball. The best players dominate. And then it's not even like the tournament where it's one and done, where maybe you can get an upset. It's 7 games. Almost always the best team wins. And I'm going to go ahead and say that the best team is the team that I just saw go wire to wire as the best team in the Western Conference. And then once the playoffs started, never really got extended. 4-1-4. I mean, in the finals, they won 4-2, but the West couldn't get more than a game out of them. Right, per series. So I'm going to say that, yes, they'll miss Rondo come playoff time, but Schroeder in the regular season is an upgrade. Montrezl Harrell is like an old-school power forward, an energizer guy. They have everything they need, and more than in terms surrounding LeBron and AD. But, guys, in the history of the NBA, when you have the best player in the world paired with another top 5 player, when have they ever lost? Like, the exception that proves the rule, maybe you could find 1 or 2 cases. They almost always win. There's no other pairing like that in the NBA where you say that guy's the best and that guy's a top 5 player. The Lakers are going to beat the Field and win the championship, barring injury.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that they are the best team. And if I had to pick one team to win the championship, it would be the Lakers. And you left out the Wesley Matthews edition, which I think is huge because he's going to be able to hit spot-up shots. He's going to get a ton of open shots in that situation. But the problem is, you said barring catastrophic injury, it doesn't have to be catastrophic. It just has to be injury at a particular moment. They don't win the championship without both AD and LeBron James. I think that either one of them, considering LeBron's age and his injury a couple years ago, and AD, frankly, has had a lot of injuries, and that happens with guys that are that size and somehow manage to have the skills of a guard at the same time. It's difficult to stay healthy. So an injury at the wrong time hurts this team, but I would pick them still, considering that over everybody else, if we had to pick one team. But you're giving me the entire rest of the NBA? Like, this league is not a bunch of slouches. It's the most talented NBA that we've ever seen, and the talent is pretty well dispersed. Like, we could think of Portland, and the Nuggets are a team that I think a lot of people should be excited about. If Michael Porter Jr. is able to make that jump, he's a guy who could give AD some problems on defense if he learns how to play defense. And then also he can score, and they have Jokic and Murray. Like, that's a team that can threaten them in the West. We also have on the Eastern Conference, we have the 76ers have added some shooting, and Curry, and also Danny Green. The last time they had shooting around them, they were a couple bounces away from going to the finals. You bring in Doc also, who's an experienced coach, who's a championship coach, and assuming that Embiid and Simmons can stay healthy, like, that is a pair that you would not be ashamed to match up against LeBron and AD. With the athleticism and the defense that Simmons brings, he can give LeBron some trouble, and obviously Embiid is an offensive threat and is big enough to contest some of the things that AD wants to do. So I would agree with you. the Lakers are the best team, but you're giving me the whole field. I just went through a few teams. I didn't even touch on Brooklyn, and KD's going to come back and be as good as he was before he left. Like, there are so many teams out there that it's just hard for me to give up the whole field for just one team when we know that any one moment something could happen that could throw this team out of whack.
Well, Dominique, look, man, I feel sorry for you today. And brother, you should have picked up the phone and called me because you off your game right now. Because if you think at any chance or for any moment that the Denver Nuggets could be a threat to the Los Angeles Lakers or any team, I would say the team that comes the closest to being a threat to them right now, from my eye test, just watching them in the preseason, is the Brooklyn Nets. But when you look at the Los Angeles Lakers, they have the most championship experience. They have the best duo in the NBA, the best duo, in my opinion, since Kobe and Shaq. And then, on top of that, they have the most championship experience. They have veteran leadership. And now you add guys like you said, Wes Matthews, a guy that could provide a defensive spark on one end and is capable of knocking down three-point shots. Caldwell Pope, who struggled last regular season but elevated his game tremendously in the playoffs. Montrezl Harrell, who has a lot to prove. Him and Anthony Davis in the front court will be tremendous on the defensive end. Because what people don't realize about Montrezl Harrell is that last year he finished top 10 in protecting the basket. He finished top 10 in taking charges. He's a guy that can switch 1 through 5. And so you get Davis should have won Defensive Player of the Year. Now you have those two on the court at the same time, two mobile bigs on the defensive end that could do it all and protect one another. That's a dangerous combination. And I know that, Max. I gave you your time to talk, and I finished speaking. Thank you. And when you look at LeBron James, don't come giving me nothing about his age and all this. The season is right back here. He only had 2 months off. So it's not like, we going into a whole, if it was 3 years from now, I get that. But LeBron is just fine. He's going to come out on a mission. Yeah. And like you said, Dennis Schroeder. And why are we not bringing up
mention the whole roster,
Tucker? Yeah, I am going to mention the whole roster because that's how deep they are. That's how deep they are. And then guess what? You done gave Anthony Davis a taste of what it feels like that he know that he could be the best player at any time. And Anthony Davis is actually my MVP pick for this season because this is a guy that has no flaws offensively, no flaws defensively, and he's coming in as an NBA champion, just hitting his prime at 27 years old. It's over for everybody else. I'm picking the Lakers.
Dominique, quick, before he starts going over the G League roster, let me just say that he's right about Talen Horton-Tucker. Talen Horton-Tucker and Caruso, by the way, those are the kind of players that are like the hallmarks of a good organization. When you can find guys like that who can clearly at least serve a function, a specific function, if not more, with like real upside, and you have guys like LeBron and AD, it's the kind of team where when Talen Horton-Tucker starts showing you he can actually play, it's like, well, you just throw up your hands. What are you supposed to do? You don't have enough to worry about with LeBron and AD. You have other guys who can go score. It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you guys. I agree. I picked the Lakers also if we had to pick one team, but we're saying we have the field. And guys like Caruso and Talen Horton-Tucker, like he's come on strong. Everyone's seen it. It's been impressive so far in the preseason. But come on, the finals are not going to be decided by those deep guys on the roster. The finals are going to be decided by the two big guys that we talked about. And that's the reason why I picked them to win the championship also. But I'm not picking them over the field. And I understand that you said that LeBron and AD ran through everybody last year. It was impressive. I saw it. We have the shortest offseason in the history of any professional sports. And LeBron, I understand, he is not the youngest person out there, and I understand that he seems to be indestructible. But we have seen him get injured. Like, it's happened. He's getting older. That's something that could happen. And AD has been injured for plenty of games and plenty of seasons. That's something that could happen. I agree with you. All things, if nothing goes wrong, the Lakers are winning the championship. But if they have any slip up, if they lose any of those important pieces, or they are weakened in any way, there's a lot of talent out there. We haven't even talked much about the Blazers. Like, there are a lot of good teams. You're making it seem as if we're looking at a Warriors situation where we got MVPs on top of MVPs on top of MVPs and no one else can compete. This team is not that far separated from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, yes, they are.
I think they're more separated than you realize, because real quick, Perk, let me just say this. None of the team, like the Lakers improved in the offseason. The likely contenders really didn't improve enough to catch up. If you look at what Phoenix did, if a team like Denver had made moves like Phoenix, okay. If the Clippers would have gotten their hands on Rondo and tweaked it a little bit more, okay, now you say now the Lakers will get some burn. But that's not what happened. In fact, the other teams more or less stayed the same. Maybe some, the Bucks got a little better, stuff like that. The Lakers were the team that got better on paper in the offseason, and they already had a big head start.
Yeah, and he's right, though. I mean, how did the Lakers win the offseason? And to a point that you made, Dominique, yes, it is role players, the ones that help you win games and win series. If we go back and look back to the finals, when the Miami Heat did win a few games in the finals, and then the Lakers came in a must-win situation, I believe it was in Game 5. Game 5, when they added Alex Caruso to the starting lineup, that changed everything. That changed the whole dynamic of the series, because they were able to match up with the Miami Heat, and they moved Anthony Davis to the 5. So role players do matter. And when you have a guy like Alex Caruso and change the game with his defensive mindset, he gets the Lakers extra possessions. He's a guy who's not afraid of the moment. That is huge for them. So the role players do matter. And to Max's point, when you upgrade, when the Lakers upgrades is huge. My bad, Molly. Go ahead.
All good, thank you. Wrapping things up.
Remember when Perk came on the segment smiling in the beginning?
You guys are listening do you listen to, Max, do you see this? You and Stephen A., do you see how they listen to my direction? Thank you both. Thank you very much. 'Tis the season. The Lakers play the Clippers today, by the way.